What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Evan and I make videos about hot stocks, dividends, and options. So if that interests you guys, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss when I upload. So in today's video, we're going to go over whether NIO stock is kind of recovering and whether they're done pulling back like they have been for the last couple weeks. And we're also going to cover a few reasons as to why they were pulling back last week and they were in the red pretty much all week. But before we jump into it, if you guys wouldn't mind going down and hitting the like button, it really does help out the channel and it lets me know that you guys are enjoying these videos every weekday. So again, if you guys wouldn't mind going down and hitting the like button, it really does help out. But with that out of the way, you can see today NIO is up right around 2.5%. And personally, I think this is a good thing to see because we've been seeing NIO pull back quite a bit the last couple weeks or so. And so to finally see them catching up and to be in the green the last couple days is a good thing. Now, typically we do see NIO start lower and then they end the day a bit higher than they started. So it looks like today they could end in the red or end right around neutral because they did start a bit higher and now they're kind of pulling back through the day. Now, it's not a huge pullback, but they are tapering downwards. And I don't know for sure, they could continue going up through the end of the trading day. There are a couple hours left in the day, but as of right now, it looks like they're going to end right around neutral probably, because they actually did start the beginning of the day and they spiked up right around 6% in the green. And so since then, they've been pulling back, as you can see here. But on the 1 week, NIO is up right around 15%. And you can see this is kind of what I was talking about. This doesn't show the full picture of them pulling back because right here it looks like they were just up and then down and now they're up again. But you can see on the last few days, this is kind of where we're seeing NIO start to get back to where they were trading at before, where almost every day, day after day was a green day. And so it's good to see NIO getting back on track with that because I think a lot of people and a lot of investors were scared that NIO was going to pull back all the way into the 20s. But looking at the 1 month chart here, NIO is up 8.7%. And this kind of gives you a better picture of where NIO has been the last few weeks and how they've actually been pulling down for quite a while here. So right around November 24th here is when they hit that high of $55. And then they were kind of hovering around this area for a few days. And then right around November 30th and December 1st, there was news about potential delisting of Chinese stocks. And then obviously we saw NIO pull back from right around 52 and they pulled down all the way to $44. And I think they actually dipped into the $43 area here. And then after investors stopped worrying about NIO being delisted because they were in compliance with the new law, they started pushing back up. But there was also some other catalysts pushing NIO's share price down, especially last week. But looking at SPY today, you can see the overall market is up right around 0.3%. And this is also a contributing factor that's probably pushing NIO upwards too. Because we know that NIO isn't always dependent on the market, but the market does have a pretty big influence on NIO. Because a lot of investors that are investing in NIO, a good portion of those investors are probably US investors. And so when people see the overall market go down, they probably sell out of other positions like NIO, for example. And so even though the overall market doesn't have a huge effect on NIO because they are a Chinese company, it does affect them somewhat. And I think especially on green days when the market is up, that really does help boost NIO up. And you can see on the 1 week that SPY is up almost 1.5%. But to kind of go over a few things that were pulling NIO back last week, and this started out on Monday with a 10% hit to NIO's share price. And this is because Candy Technologies, which is another EV company over in China, they were actually shorted by a research company. And it says that they were making allegations that the company's reported revenue figures didn't reflect actual independent third-party sales. And so because Candy got shorted, this affected the entire EV space in China, especially the well-known companies like NIO, XPeng, and Li Auto. And we've seen this before too, where XPeng or Li Auto affects NIO's share price. And vice versa as well. And so that does explain the big pullback on Monday. And then again on Tuesday, NIO took another 10% loss. And this was when a lot of that worry about the delisting was coming out. And this was actually the same day where we found out November deliveries for NIO. And they actually delivered almost 5,300 vehicles. And yet that wasn't enough to push their share price higher because of all that worry about delisting. Then moving on to Wednesday, they actually kind of recovered a little bit with a 6% gain. And this was because Goldman Sachs actually upgraded their target from a sell to a neutral, and they upgraded their price up to $59 per share. So because of the fact that Goldman Sachs has always been pretty bearish on NIO, they actually had a pretty good recovery day on Wednesday, but then again on Thursday, they took a pretty big hit because of XPeng. Now, XPeng took a pretty big hit from UBS, and an analyst there actually cut their rating from a buy to a neutral. And although they did cut their rating down to a neutral, they did upgrade to $59, I believe, for XPeng's share price. But obviously that wasn't enough to counteract the downgrade from a buy to a neutral. Then again on Friday, NIO took another 5% loss because their competitor Li Auto did a secondary stock offering, and that resulted in a 6% drop in Li Auto stock and a 5% loss in NIO stock. So looking at last week, I don't think it should be looked at as a negative thing. Even though NIO did drop quite a bit last week, that should have just been a time to add up on more shares, especially if you believe in NIO long term. Now, we can't always see a stock just go up forever without any pullbacks. That's not healthy, because eventually people are going to figure that stock is going to tank and they're going to drop like a rock if they just continue going up with no explanation as to why. So to see NIO pull back last week and have a red week, I think it's healthy to see that in this kind of a market. And now because we had that red week last week, this could give NIO a lot more opportunity in the next coming weeks and the next few months, because they had this red week and they probably will have more pullbacks in the future here. But it's a good thing to see them pull back, and then they can kind of grow from that pullback. And it also gives investors kind of a chance to load up on more shares if they have a relatively high share price. But it says here that NIO stock slumped 20.5% and enters the second week of the final month of 2020 24.76% below their 52-week high. And it also goes on to say that by strict definitions of technical analysis, declines of 20% or more from recent highs do indicate that we're among a bear market. Now, I don't think this is really the case. People would say that, yeah, because NIO has pulled back so much that they're going to continue dropping. Well, look at the news that came out last week. It wasn't even specific to NIO. So there's really no reason why NIO even should have been pulling back. Now, obviously, we know other EV stocks affect NIO, but looking at it from a technical standpoint, news about other companies, even though, yes, it does affect NIO, it's not something that should continue making NIO pull back. Now, if there was actual negative news specific to NIO, yes, then NIO would continue pulling back. But the way it is right now, all this news was for other companies like Li Auto, XPeng, and Candy Technologies. So if NIO did have actual bad news come out for their company, yes, we would see NIO continue pulling back. But as of right now, that news was for other companies, and NIO was just affected on the side because of these other companies. But if you look at the gains that they've had year to date and year over year, they're still well in the green, and it's really not anything to worry about unless you bought in at the very top. Even if you bought in at the top though, you might be suffering some losses on paper right now, but you don't lose that money unless you get out of your positions. So as long as you're long term on NIO, you're probably going to be fine, because NIO should recover from this pullback, and it looks like they already are. And as I mentioned earlier, NIO delivered almost 5,300 vehicles in November, and this represented a 109% year-over-year gain when we compare this to November of 2019. And their year-to-date deliveries is right around 37,000, and that represents a jump of 111% year-over-year. So obviously we're seeing NIO grow, and they're showing that they have the potential to compete with other companies, especially considering the fact that recently they actually passed GM. And it looks like they're starting to climb the ladder and get up towards those top spots in terms of automakers around the world. And they're actually in the process of accelerating their production capacity expansion in December of 2020. And this is to accommodate for the increasing order growth that NIO has been having. Now, I don't know how much people hear about NIO over in China, whether it's just kind of word of mouth and customers referring other customers to NIO. But I know if NIO were over in the US right now, with all this excitement that people have been having about NIO, I think a lot of people would be buying NIO vehicles if they were in the US right now. And that's another thing to consider too with NIO going forward. I don't think a lot of people are taking into account that NIO could expand worldwide. There's been talk about them expanding to Europe in 2021. And so if they can succeed at expanding to Europe by the end of 2021, and then in the coming 5 to 10 years, they can expand over to the US as well, whether that's allowed by then or not, that's when we'll see NIO's share price spike up pretty huge, even once they expand to Europe, we should see their share price go up quite a bit. And again, I don't think there's a lot of investors taking that into account. I'm not even sure too many investors know that they want to expand globally, because I think a lot of these people are just considering the fact that NIO is trying to become the top auto manufacturer in China, not accounting for the fact of global expansion. But like we were going over earlier, how NIO is being affected by these other companies like XPeng and Li Auto, I don't think they should be affected as greatly as they are when news comes out for these other companies, because NIO is actually larger than Li Auto and XPeng combined. So you wouldn't think that this negative news coming out for these companies would affect NIO so greatly, but it sure seems to be that way. And maybe there's something that can be done in the future, and maybe with NIO's growth, they can kind of get out of that bubble where all these Chinese EV stocks are kind of together, and hopefully at that point NIO won't be as affected by negative news from these other EV companies. But putting global expansion aside, there's also so many other things that are going to push up NIO's share price in the future. I mean, if we just look at the analyst predictions for NIO, almost all analysts are bullish on NIO, and they almost all have a buy rating on NIO, or at least that was the case a couple weeks ago. I haven't checked super recently, but I know that there's a lot of analysts bullish on NIO, and it's for good reason too, because NIO has these things like their battery as a service, they have their battery swap technology, and they have so many other things going for them in the future that other companies just haven't incorporated into their business model yet. And it says here at the bottom, their battery as a service model could push NIO to high 50s or low 60s. Now, obviously, we already saw NIO hit around $55. The only problem was that they couldn't consolidate around that, and then they pulled back because of all this negative news for other EV companies. But I think the future is really bright for NIO. And I'm hoping by the end of the year, NIO can get right around that $50 area and kind of consolidate around $50. That would be a good thing to see by the end of December in the next few weeks. And then they would start off the new year with a pretty solid consolidation area, and it would be a lot easier to grow from there, especially considering NIO Day is in January, and that should help boost up NIO's share price as well. So that's definitely something to look forward to in the next coming month or so. But for those of you who made it this far into the video, I want to hear what your guys' opinion is on NIO versus Tesla. Now, I know a lot of you guys are investing in NIO, and maybe you don't have shares of Tesla, or maybe you guys have both. But I want to hear what you guys think of NIO versus Tesla and who you think is going to be bigger in the next 10 years. Now, as of right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Tesla just because they're so far ahead. Now, NIO is gaining on them pretty quickly, but I think Tesla is still going to lead the way for the next 5 to 10 years possibly. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments and who you think is going to be bigger in the next 10 years or so. Or maybe even give your estimate of when you think NIO could overtake Tesla in terms of auto manufacturers. Lastly, if you guys haven't signed up for Webull, make sure you guys sign up using the link in the description, and you'll get 4 free stocks when you sign up and deposit $100. Also, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like because it really does help out the channel. And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you back here in the next one. Bye.